My parents spent $250,000 on my sister's fancy Italian wedding, but when it was my turn to get married, they would not even buy me a wedding dress. I ended up recording them calling me names on the phone and sent the audio to my sister, and that is how she finally realized they had been playing favorites my entire life. So, about 6 years ago, my older sister, Jessica, got married, and it was this huge production. My parents went all out and dropped around $250,000 on her wedding, easy. On top of that, her in-laws also pitched in, just not as much as my parents did, so the total cost definitely went well over that number. It was a destination wedding in Italy, because that was the first place she and her now husband had gone on vacation together. They flew a ton of people out there. Practically everyone from our old high school who she was still in touch with, a bunch of people from her college days, all our family friends, and even some random acquaintances made the guest list. It was a very expensive, very showy event, but my parents, Robert and Linda Parker, were thrilled to do it. At the time, my dad's pharmaceutical company was doing incredibly well, and my mom runs her own medical practice, so she was also in a strong financial position. They could easily afford to throw money around, and they wanted to pull out all the stops for Jessica, so they did. Back then, I remember asking them, when I get married, will you do the same thing for me? And both of them said yes, without hesitating. They told me they absolutely would. So I held on to that promise. Fast forward to now, I am engaged, and we are planning my wedding. I went to them and asked if they would help cover the cost of my wedding too. And here is the thing, I was not even asking for anything close to what they spent on my sister's wedding. Not half, not even a quarter of it. We are not doing a destination wedding. We are not inviting 300 people from every corner of our lives. My fiancé, Daniel, and I just want our friends and family there. We picked a beautiful hotel a little bit outside of Denver because the location itself is gorgeous. It is nothing my parents cannot afford. Daniel's parents are also contributing and have agreed to split the wedding expenses 50-50 with my parents. Anything extra beyond that, Daniel and I are paying ourselves. The one big splurge that I personally wanted was a custom-made bridal gown. That was my dream item, the one thing I did not want to compromise on. Everything else, I was flexible about. A couple of days ago, while we were talking about the wedding, I brought this up to my parents. That is when they suddenly started acting really stingy. Instead of being happy to help, they told me I should just wear Jessica's old wedding dress because overspending on something as minor as a wedding was not something they expected from me. They started insisting they were already spending a lot of money, which honestly is just not true. The wedding is not that expensive, at least not for them. Then my dad started in with a speech about how his finances had taken a big hit after the pandemic, and he just could not afford the kind of spending he had done when Jessica got married. He told me I should be grateful for whatever they were offering and stop making demands. I was furious, because I know for a fact that this is not the whole truth. My dad is in the pharmaceutical industry. As far as I can tell, his line of work has been booming since the pandemic started. And even if, for the sake of argument, I pretend he is telling the truth and his business did take a hit, it is still weird that he is suddenly becoming careful with his money only now, when it is my wedding we are talking about. In the past 4 years, they have not cut back on anything. If anything, they have been living more lavishly than ever. Regular vacations, fancy anniversary parties, new cars, expensive restaurants, you name it. So I truly do not understand why, all of a sudden, paying for my modest wedding and my dress is somehow too much. The whole thing turned into a fight. They started calling me entitled and implying I was acting like a spoiled brat. That pushed me over the edge, and I snapped. I told them that if they wanted to start cutting costs, we could start by cutting them from the guest list. I said I would happily disinvite them from the wedding. Then I got up and left. Since that argument, I have not spoken to them, even though they have been trying to call and text. They keep telling me I am immature, entitled, ungrateful, all the usual insults. And Jessica, at least at first, agreed with them. What hurts is that, even though my parents are very well off, I grew up wearing Jessica's hand-me-downs. Clothes, shoes, accessories, if it was slightly used in hers, it got passed down to me. I honestly did not mind it back then. Jessica had great taste, and I looked up to her, so I liked copying her style. But now that I am getting married, this feels different. For once in my life, I wanted something that was just mine. I think my parents could at least invest in my wedding dress and a reasonable share of the costs. Daniel and I talked about it. He is kind of torn. On one hand, he says it is their money, and they technically can do whatever they want with it. On the other hand, he agrees that they made a very clear promise to me, and now they are backing out and trying to gaslight me into believing I am asking for too much. I really do not think that I am. So now I am stuck wondering, am I the jerk for expecting my parents to cover certain costs of my wedding and disinviting them when they refused? Edit, cost breakdown. A lot of people were asking how exactly the expenses are being divided, so here is the full breakdown. My parents, Robert and Linda, were asked to cover the catering and my custom wedding dress. Daniel's parents are paying for the venue and the decor. Daniel and I are covering everything related to the bridal party, such as hair, makeup, gifts, and so on. For the hotel rooms for out-of-town guests, our parents were supposed to split that cost between them. We really tried to plan everything in a way that would not put too much pressure on anyone. Daniel's parents are comfortable, but they are not as wealthy as mine, and we do not want to put them in a bad spot. For my parents, the amount we asked them to pay is honestly nothing compared to what they normally spend. They have spent more on some of their annual anniversary parties than what we are asking them to contribute to my wedding. That is why I do not understand why they are suddenly acting like this request is unreasonable. A lot of people pointed out that it sounds like Jessica is the golden child, and at this point, I can admit that it feels that way now. For most of our lives, my parents treated us similarly on the surface. We both got love and attention. But when it came to money, they always went bigger for her. Even though they were rich, they were weirdly stingy with me in certain ways. I always got her hand-me-downs, and I truly did not think anything of it back then. I liked looking like her. I admired her, and I still do in many ways, even though she has been on my parents' side through all of this. Only now, with everything going on, is it really hitting me how unfair this pattern has been. Maybe she really is the golden child. And maybe I was just too used to it to see it clearly before. Update 1. Hi, and thank you to everyone who shared their opinions, whether you said I was right or called me entitled. I needed the perspective. I have decided I am going to stick with my decision to disinvite my parents from the wedding. At this point, it is not even about the money anymore. It is about the promise they made to me and how they are acting like I am the problem for expecting them to keep their word. I do not like that they are trying to paint me as the villain here, when they are the ones who promised to do for me what they did for Jessica. I am not demanding an Italian destination wedding with hundreds of guests. I am asking them to cover catering and my dress. They did so much more for my sister without blinking. I am asking for a fraction of that, and somehow I am spoiled. If they can say, it is our money, we will spend it how we want, then I can just as easily say, it is my wedding, and I will invite who I want. I am not taking any money from them. That means they do not get automatic access to my special day. If I am entitled for expecting them to follow through on their promise, then they are even more entitled for assuming they deserve a front row seat at my wedding after treating me like this. Update 2. It has been 9 days since I last spoke to my parents. I have not replied to any of their messages or answered any of their calls. Jessica has also been trying to reach out, but I have been ignoring her too. The truth is, she just does not understand what I am feeling. She has always gotten what she wanted. Our parents have never put up a fight with her. For her, no is not really a word she hears from them. They are only acting like this with me. She does not get that it is unfair, and I am tired of trying to explain that. This is between me and our parents. I do not want her in the middle of this mess, because if we start arguing, it is only going to get uglier. For a few days, my parents stopped reaching out completely. I thought maybe they were actually giving up on forcing the issue, and honestly, I was fine with that. I started reworking the wedding budget based on my own finances and what Daniel and I can afford without them. I decided I would not accept a dime from them from now on. If people do not want to live up to their word, I am not going to beg them for help. I never blocked them, but I stopped answering. And lately, they stopped calling too. Jessica, however, kept messaging. She kept saying she did not want me handling things like this and that I was being irrational. She said it was not like me to cut people off. And she was right that, in the past, I probably would have kept quiet to keep everyone comfortable. But I reached a breaking point. I am not willing to keep playing the role of the overlooked daughter who just quietly takes whatever is handed to her. I am a grown woman now. If they do not want to help, fine. But they do not get to lie, guilt-trip me, and then act like I am crazy for being upset. Yesterday, though, my parents decided to switch tactics. Instead of contacting me, they texted Daniel. Up until now, they had been keeping him out of it, probably out of some idea of respect. In their message, they told him that they wanted him to talk some sense into me, because things were going too far and they did not want our relationship to be ruined forever. They said that since I am about to get married, they want to be there for me because I am their daughter and important to them, even if I do not believe that right now. They said the least I could do was talk to them and work things out. It was nice to see the word important in there, but honestly, if they want me to feel important, they can start by actually showing it. They made a promise. All I am asking is that they honor it. I do not care if people think it makes me sound entitled. At this point, I feel entitled to this one thing. I want them to prove that I matter as much as Jessica. Daniel already knew how I felt, so he replied to them and said that he did not want to get in the middle of this. He told them that if they wanted to fix things with me, they needed to talk to me directly. They did not like that at all. They wrote back and said that, of all people, he should understand what is best for me and help set me on the right track instead of backing me up. They literally told him that if he truly cared about me, he would side with them and convince me to apologize. That really set Daniel off. He replied and told them that I am an adult, fully capable of making my own decisions, and it is not his job to act like my parent or control what I choose to do, especially in a situation that is this personal. After that, he muted their messages. They did not respond again. I think his tone finally got through to them. When we got home from work and he told me everything, I was livid. They had no reason to try to drag him into this. He was right, this is between me and them. I can decide what is best for myself. This is not just about money. It is about how they have made me feel. They hurt me emotionally, and they cannot just brush that off and pretend everything is fine. You do not insult your daughter, guilt-trip her, and then demand an invitation to her wedding like nothing happened. If they really want to fix things, they need to apologize to me. I honestly do not think they will, and even if they never do, I am prepared to move forward without them. We will have to cut some corners and I will probably use some of my savings to cover what they were supposed to pay for. But at least I will not have to sacrifice my self-respect to make them comfortable. Update 3. So after that mess with Daniel, my parents stopped contacting both of us completely for about a week. I assumed they were finished trying, and I was okay with that. I moved forward with wedding planning based solely on what Daniel and I, and his parents, could reasonably afford. I had mentally written off any help from my parents. It was clear they were not willing to support me, and I did not want to beg people who clearly did not want to keep their word. Jessica kept trying though. She texted me saying she did not want me handling things like this and that I was being irrational. She said it was not like me to cut people off. And she was right that, in the past, I probably would have kept quiet to keep everyone comfortable. But I told myself I deserved better than being treated like a backup character in my own life. Then, yesterday evening, I got a long message from my parents again. In it, they said they were disappointed in how I was handling the situation. They said everything could be worked out if I would just give them a chance and talk to them instead of throwing a tantrum because they refused to bow down to my whims and fancies. The tone of the message was incredibly condescending. They painted themselves as poor, long-suffering parents dealing with a vindictive, entitled daughter. They said they still believed there was hope for us to reconcile if I would just stop being bratty and reply to them. I was furious. It was obvious that they had not done any real self-reflection. They genuinely believed they were completely in the right. So I answered. I told them I was not willing to talk to them at all unless they were at least open to the idea that they might not be entirely right in this situation. I said that if they could not even entertain that possibility, then there was nothing for us to discuss. I waited for a reply. Nothing came. About 2 hours later, my mom called. She said she wanted to sort things out and did not want to fight. I could hear my dad in the background. She said I should just say whatever was on my mind, and they would listen. So I did. I told them everything I had been feeling for the past couple of weeks. I told them how hurt I was, how unfair it felt that they had done so much for Jessica and acted like my requests were outrageous, how they had promised to be there for me too and now were backing out while acting like I was crazy. I poured my heart out, then waited. I really thought maybe we were finally getting somewhere. But as soon as I finished, they started talking, and it was obvious they had not taken in a single thing I said. Giving me the chance to go first was just a formality so they could say they had let me speak. I honestly do not know if they even listened. They went right back to playing the victims. They said they did not know what more I wanted from them. They said it was their money and it was unfair for me to expect them to go to extraordinary lengths just because I was getting married. They defended themselves by saying that when they made that promise to me, their financial situation had been different, and at that time, it would have been no issue. Then they actually tried to blame me for not getting married earlier, saying that if I had chosen to marry sooner, this would not have been a problem. When I pointed out that, during these supposedly hard financial years, they had never once cut back on vacations, home renovations, parties, or any other luxury, they brushed that off and said it was their choice how they spent their money. When I reminded them that it is my wedding and I get to choose who is invited, they had no real argument. So instead, they did what they always do when cornered. They attacked me personally. That is when I quietly started recording the call. They called me insolent, selfish, disrespectful, and said they regretted even trying to fix things with me. My mom said the only reason they had fought so hard to make peace was because, whether they liked it or not, I was still their daughter, and whatever I did reflected on them. She literally said that if my wedding ended up being too shabby, it would be associated with them, and they did not want that embarrassment. She said that now they no longer cared what I did, because clearly I had made my choice and they were not going to compromise their dignity by dealing with me anymore. Then they told me that if I did not apologize, they would officially disown me and no longer consider me their daughter. I told them they were free to disown me, because I was no longer interested in being their daughter if this was who they really were. I told them they had shown me how shallow they actually are. They started cursing at me again. I hung up. I sat there for a few minutes, trying to calm down, and then I sent the full recording of that phone call to Jessica, along with a detailed explanation of what had happened before and after. I did not sugarcoat anything. I repeated exactly what was said on both sides. Then I ended with something along the lines of, "These are the people you have been defending." As I said earlier, Jessica and I always had a good relationship. I genuinely respect her, or at least I did. Even though she had been siding with our parents through all this, I still had higher expectations of her than I did of them. Part of me expected her to respond by telling me that our parents had every right to talk to me that way. After all, she had been defending them from the beginning. Thankfully, that is not what happened. After listening to the recording, she texted me and said she would talk to them and try to get them to apologize to me. She said she had been siding with them up until now, but this crossed a line. She apologized to me herself and said she did not realize how bad it had gotten. I did not respond right away because I was still really upset. A few hours later, she called, and I answered. She broke down and apologized over and over. She told me she had no idea our parents had spoken to me like that. She thought it was just a simple disagreement over money, not a full-blown character attack. I ended up crying too and told her everything I had been holding in, including how hurt I was that she had been siding with them. She told me it was completely fair for me to be upset with her. She said our parents had been manipulating her, making it sound like I was just being dramatic and unreasonable. She admitted she had believed them, and now she regretted it. She told me she tried to talk to them after hearing the recording, tried to explain that what they said to me was wrong. But they told her to stay out of it and turned nasty on her too. Apparently, the second she stopped blindly agreeing with them, they turned on her. She said she would not be speaking to them again unless they apologized to me. I told her she did not have to go that far, but she insisted. She said she needed to take a stand. She kept apologizing and told me she hoped this would not ruin our relationship. I told her I was ready to let go of what happened over the last couple of weeks, because what mattered most to me was that she finally saw what was really going on and stood up for me. So, even though I could not fix things with our parents, at least I got my sister back. And honestly, that means more to me than anything. Update 4. It has been about 2 weeks since all of that, and things are finally starting to feel steadier. Jessica and I have met up multiple times, and we have truly made things right between us. She apologized. I accepted. We did not drag out a long, dramatic breakdown of every little detail or rehash every mistake. I know how manipulative our parents can be. I get how easy it is to get pulled into their version of events, especially when they are so good at playing the victims. Now, neither of us is talking to them. Because of their own choices and behavior, they have managed to push away both of their daughters. If that is the hill they wanted to die on, then that is on them. I, on the other hand, feel lighter. Even though my parents backed out of what they promised and I originally thought I would have to seriously cut back on the wedding, Jessica stepped in and offered to help. She told me she wanted to contribute toward the wedding costs. I tried to tell her she did not need to do that. She never promised me anything, and none of this is her fault. But she insisted. She said it was the least she could do to make it up to me. Because of her help, we still cannot throw a wedding on the same level my parents did for her in Italy, but I do not need that. What matters is that we do not have to scale down as drastically as I had feared. We found a middle ground that works. At this point, even if my parents came crawling back with apologies, it would not change how I feel. I will not be inviting them to my wedding. And honestly, I do not see them being welcome at any major events in my life going forward. For years, I looked at them through rose-colored glasses. Those glasses are off now. I see them clearly. I see exactly where I stand in their lives. And I do not want that role anymore. I am genuinely happier without them in my life.